It was a bright, sunny day at Westfield Middle School. The big yellow sun hung high in the sky, shining down on the playground full of kids. The bell rang loud and clear, ding, 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 and all the students ran outside, laughing and shouting. It was recess time, the best part of the day. Kids were everywhere, kicking balls, chasing each other, and climbing on the jungle gym. The air smelled like fresh grass and warm dirt, and everyone was excited to play. Then there was Jake Carter. He was the new kid. He stood all by himself near the edge of the playground. Jake was skinny, like a stick figure in a drawing. He didn't talk much, and his head was always down, looking at the ground. In his hands, he held an old, beat-up backpack. The straps were frayed and the blue color was faded, like it had been through a lot. Jake didn't look like much. He wasn't big or loud or tough looking. To the other kids, he seemed weak, like someone they could push around easy. The boys on the playground noticed him right away. They huddled together, whispering and pointing. One of them, a kid with messy hair and a mean grin, said, "Look at that guy. Fresh meat." The others laughed, their eyes glinting like they'd found a new toy to play with. They sized him up, staring at his skinny arms and quiet face. To them, Jake was a nobody, just a new kid who didn't fit in. They thought he'd be scared, that he'd run away if they teased him. Oh, how wrong they were. But here's the thing, and listen close because this is where it gets good. Jake wasn't just some random kid. Nope, he had a secret. A big, huge, amazing secret that nobody at Westfield Middle School knew about. Not the teachers, not the other students, not even the janitor who swept the halls every day. This secret was like a hidden treasure, locked deep inside Jake, waiting for the right moment to come out. And trust me, when it did, it was going to turn this boring, sunny day into something wild, something no one would ever forget. Picture this, the playground buzzing with kids, the sun beating down, and Jake standing there all quiet. He didn't look special. He didn't act tough, but inside he was different, way different. The other boys didn't know it yet, but they were about to find out. What do you think? Can a quiet, skinny kid like Jake really surprise everyone? Can he be more than what he looks like? Stick around, because you're not going to believe what happens next. Let's set the scene a little more. Okay, Westfield Middle School was a big place. It had red brick walls and tall windows that sparkled in the sun. The playground was huge, with swings that creaked when you sat on them and a slide that got hot if you stayed on it too long. There were kids everywhere, some playing tag, some eating snacks, some just sitting and talking. It was loud and busy, like a beehive full of buzzing bees. And in the middle of all that noise, Jake stood out because he didn't fit in. He was new, see, he'd just moved to town a few days ago. His family came from somewhere far away and nobody knew much about him. He didn't have friends yet. He didn't talk in class. When the teacher called on him, he'd just mumble a quick answer and look back down at his desk. The other kids thought he was shy, maybe even scared, and on the playground that day they were sure of it. They saw his old backpack, his plain clothes, his skinny legs, and they thought, this guy's an easy target. Let's have some fun. That's when the whispers started. The boys, 5 of them, stood near the basketball court, bouncing a ball back and forth. They weren't nice boys. They were the kind who liked to tease and push and make other kids feel small. The leader was a kid named Tyler. He was bigger than most, with broad shoulders and a loud voice. When Tyler talked, the others listened. And right now, Tyler was staring at Jake. "Who's that weirdo?" Tyler asked, nodding toward Jake. The other boys chuckled. One of them, a short kid with freckles, said, "He's the new guy, looks like a loser." Another one added, "Yeah, bet he cries if we take his stupid bag." They all laughed again, louder this time. To them, Jake was a game, a challenge. They didn't care if he was new or alone, they just wanted to mess with him. Jake didn't hear them, not yet. He was too busy kicking a little rock with his shoe. Back and forth, back and forth. His dark hair fell over his eyes, hiding his face. He didn't look up. He didn't wave or smile or try to join the other kids. He just stood there, quiet as a mouse. But if you watched him close, really close, you might have seen something. His hands, they weren't shaking. They weren't nervous. They were steady, gripping that backpack like it was important, like it held something special. The boys didn't notice that. They didn't care. They just saw a skinny kid who didn't belong. "Let's go say hi," Tyler said with a smirk. The others nodded, excited. They started walking toward Jake, their sneakers crunching on the gravel. The playground kept buzzing around them, kids yelling, balls bouncing, swings squeaking. But for Jake, everything was about to change. Now let's pause for a second. Imagine you're Jake. You're new, you're alone, and these tough-looking boys are coming your way. What would you do? Would you run? Would you hide? Or would you stand there waiting? Jake didn't run. He didn't hide. He just stayed put, like he knew something they didn't. And he did know something. That secret I told you about, it was big. Bigger than the playground, bigger than the school, bigger than anything those boys could imagine. What was it? Well, I'm not telling you yet. That's the fun part. You've got to keep going to find out. But I'll give you a little hint. Jake wasn't weak. He wasn't scared. He was ready. Ready for what? Oh, you'll see. This sunny day at Westfield Middle School was about to get crazy, all because of one quiet kid and his big secret. Think about it. The other boys thought they were in charge. They thought they could push Jake around and laugh about it. They had no idea what was coming. They saw his skinny arms and old backpack and figured he was nothing. But looks can trick you, right? Sometimes the smallest, quietest person is the strongest one of all. And Jake, he was about to prove it. So here's the big question for you. Can a kid like Jake really surprise everyone? Can he turn the tables and show those mean boys who's boss? What do you think his secret is? Is he super strong, super smart, something else? Drop your guess in the comments. I'm dying to hear what you think. And don't go anywhere because this story's just getting started. Trust me, you won't believe what happens next. The playground was still alive with noise. The sun kept shining. The boys kept walking toward Jake, grinning like they'd already won. And Jake, he just stood there, calm and quiet, holding his backpack. The air felt thick, like something big was about to happen, something wild, something awesome. This was no ordinary day anymore. This was the day Jake Carter, the new kid, would change everything. The playground at Westfield Middle School was buzzing with kids, but all eyes were starting to turn toward one spot. That spot was where Jake Carter, the new kid, stood all alone. And walking right toward him was Tyler Brooks, the meanest, toughest bully in 6th grade. Tyler wasn't just any kid. He was big, loud, and strong. His shoulders were wide, his sneakers were dirty, and he always had a nasty grin on his face. Everyone knew Tyler. If you crossed him, you were in trouble. And right now, Tyler had his sights set on Jake. Tyler strutted over like he owned the whole playground. His head was up high, his chest puffed out, and his 4 buddies trailed behind him like a pack of wild dogs. They were all giggling and whispering, excited to see what Tyler would do. When he got close to Jake, Tyler stopped and crossed his arms. He looked Jake up and down like he was sizing up a little bug he could squash. Then he opened his mouth and sneered, "Hey, new kid." His voice was sharp like a bark. He shoved Jake's shoulder hard with one hand. "You don't belong here. Better run home before you get hurt." The shove made Jake stumble a little, but he didn't fall. His old backpack swung on his arm and he grabbed it tighter. Around them, Tyler's buddies burst out laughing. They circled Jake, moving slow like sharks swimming around something tasty. Their eyes were bright and their smiles were mean. To them this was fun. They thought Jake was weak. They thought he'd cry or run away. The other kids on the playground started to notice too. Some stopped playing. Some peeked over from the swings. A crowd was growing, watching, waiting. But Jake, he didn't say a single word, not one. He just stood there, staring down at the dirt. His dark hair flopped over his eyes, hiding his face. His hands, though they weren't loose or shaky, they tightened into little fists just a bit. Most kids, if a big bully like Tyler pushed them, would have freaked out. They'd cry or yell or beg him to stop. But not Jake. He didn't cry, he didn't beg, he didn't even look up. He just stayed quiet, like a statue made of stone. That silence, it drove Tyler nuts. You could see it in his face. His grin turned into a frown and his eyes got narrow. He didn't like that Jake wasn't scared, or at least he didn't look scared. Tyler wanted Jake to shake. He wanted Jake to run, so he stepped closer, his sneakers crunching the gravel loud enough for everyone to hear. "What's wrong, scaredy cat?" Tyler taunted. His voice was meaner now, like a growl. Too chicken to fight back. Then he pushed Jake again, harder this time. Jake's skinny body rocked back, but he caught himself. He still didn't say anything. The crowd got bigger. Kids whispered to each other. "Who's that new kid?" one asked. "He's toast," another said. They all thought Jake was done for. Tyler was the king of the playground and nobody messed with him. His buddies kept laughing, egging him on. "Get him, Tyler," one shouted. "Make him cry," said another. They were like a cheering squad for a bully, clapping and yelling. The air felt heavy, like a storm was coming. Everyone was waiting for Jake to crack, to break, to give up. But deep down, way deep inside, Jake wasn't scared at all. Oh no, he wasn't shaking or sweating or ready to bolt. He was waiting. Waiting for what? That's the big question, isn't it? What do you think he's hiding? Could this skinny, quiet kid actually have a trick up his sleeve? Something big, something that'd make Tyler wish he'd never walked over. Let's find out, because this is where things start to get juicy. Tyler didn't stop. He couldn't. He was mad now, really, really mad. Jake's silence was like a slap to his face. Bullies like Tyler, they feed off fear. They want you to scream or cry so they feel strong. But Jake wasn't giving him that, so Tyler kept going. He poked Jake's chest with a finger. "What's the matter, huh? You deaf or something?" Poke, poke, poke. Each jab was harder, meaner. Jake's shirt wrinkled under Tyler's hand, but Jake didn't flinch. He just stood there, his fists still tight, his eyes still down. The other boys circled closer. There were 5 of them now, Tyler and his 4 shadows. One had messy hair and a chipped tooth. Another was short and loud, always giggling. They moved like a wall, blocking Jake in. "He's scared stiff," the short one said, laughing so hard he snorted. "Look at him, he's gonna pee his pants," Chipped Tooth added. They thought they had Jake trapped. They thought he was theirs to tease and push and break. The crowd of kids watching grew even bigger. Some stood on the swings to see better. Others peeked around the slide. Whispers turned into chatter. "Tyler's gonna crush him," a girl with pigtails said. "Poor new kid," a boy with glasses muttered. They all felt bad for Jake, but they didn't step in. Nobody did. Tyler was too scary, too tough. the playground belonged to him and everyone knew it. Tyler leaned in close now, so close Jake could probably smell his sour breath. "You're nothing," Tyler hissed, "a nobody, go back where you came from." Then he grabbed Jake's backpack and yanked it out of his hands. The old straps stretched and one almost snapped. Tyler held it up high like a prize and waved it around. "What's in here, huh? Your baby toys." His buddies howled with laughter, slapping their knees. The crowd gasped, taking someone's stuff. That was low even for Tyler. Jake's head finally moved, just a little. He looked up, not all the way but enough to see the backpack dangling in Tyler's hand. His eyes weren't wide or wet or scared. They were steady, calm, like a lake with no ripples. Most kids would have shouted, "Give it back," or lunged to grab it, but Jake didn't. He stayed still, his fists tighter now, his breathing slow. Something about him felt different, like he wasn't just a scared new kid anymore. Tyler didn't notice. He was too busy showing off. He tossed the backpack to Chiptooth, who caught it and swung it around. "Aw, he's gonna cry now," Chiptooth teased. The short one jumped in. "Yeah, run home to mommy." They kept tossing the bag back and forth, laughing louder and louder. The crowd watched, holding their breath. This was it, they thought. Jake would break. He'd yell or sob or give up. That's what always happened with Tyler's targets. But Jake didn't break. He didn't yell. He didn't sob. He just stood there watching them play their game. His silence was loud in its own way, like a secret shout nobody could hear yet. Tyler got tired of waiting. He stomped back over, towering over Jake. "You're so dumb," he spat. "Fight back or get lost." He shoved Jake one more time, the hardest yet. Jake stumbled back 2 steps, his sneakers scraping the dirt, but he didn't fall. He didn't run. He straightened up, slow and steady. That's when you could feel it. Something big was building. The air got thick, like before a thunderstorm. Tyler was mad, his face red and sweaty. His buddies were loud, circling like buzzing flies. The crowd was quiet, eyes wide. And Jake was calm, too calm. He wasn't scared. He wasn't lost. He was waiting. For what? Oh, you're gonna love this part. What do you think he's got up his sleeve? Is he stronger than he looks? Smarter? Something else? Guess quick, because it's about to get wild. The playground was a ticking clock now. Tick, tick, tick. Tyler wanted Jake to crack, but Jake wouldn't. The tension stretched tight, like a rubber band about to snap. The other kids could sense it too. Something was coming, something huge. Tyler didn't know it yet, but he'd picked the wrong kid to mess with. Jake's secret, whatever it was ready to come out. And when it did, watch out, Tyler, watch out, everybody. The trouble didn't end on that first sunny day at Westfield Middle School. Oh no, it kept going day after day, week after week. Tyler Brooks and his crew of mean boys decided Jake Carter, the new kid, was their favorite target. They didn't let up, not even a little. They turned Jake's life into a big, messy nightmare, and they loved every second of it. In the hallways, where kids rushed between classes, Tyler and his buddies would stick out their feet and trip Jake. Down he'd go, his skinny knees hitting the hard floor thud. Books and pencils would spill out of his beat-up backpack, scattering everywhere. The boys would laugh loud and nasty while Jake picked up his stuff without a word. At lunch, it got worse. Jake would sit alone with his tray, maybe a sandwich and an apple, and Tyler would sneak up. He'd grab Jake's food and dump it right into the trash can. "Oh, plop, oops, clumsy me," Tyler would say, grinning like it was the funniest thing ever. His friends would crack up, slapping high fives. And the names, they never stopped. "Loser," they'd yell across the playground. "Freak," they'd shout in the lunchroom. "Hey weirdo, why don't you go home?" They'd tease in class when the teacher wasn't looking. Every day it was something new, something mean. Tyler led the pack, and his crew followed like a bunch of shadows, giggling and nodding at everything he did. They thought they were so cool, picking on the quiet new kid. They thought Jake was weak because he didn't fight back. But here's the thing, Jake didn't cry, he didn't yell, he didn't run to the teacher or tattle. He stayed quiet, super quiet. Every single time they messed with him, he'd just take it. He'd stand there or sit there or kneel there, not saying a peep. Most kids would have lost it by now. Most kids would have screamed or begged or given up, but not Jake. He was different, and if you looked close, really, really close, you'd see something special about him. His eyes, oh man, his eyes were something else. They weren't big or teary or scared like you'd expect. They were sharp, like a hawk watching its prey. Steady, like a rock that doesn't move. Jake's eyes saw everything. He watched Tyler flex his fists, curling them tight like he was ready to punch something. He noticed how Tyler's buddies acted tough but jumped whenever Tyler snapped his fingers. They were like scared little puppies following their boss, wagging their tails even when they didn't want to. Jake saw it all, the way they moved, the way they talked, the way they laughed. He didn't miss a thing. Weeks went by and the bullying kept coming. Trip, dump, tease, trip, dump, tease. It was like a mean game that never ended. But Jake, he kept watching, he kept waiting. He didn't look mad or sad or scared. He looked ready. Ready for what? That's the big mystery, isn't it? What was going on in that quiet head of his? What was he planning? You're about to find out, because one day Tyler pushed things too far. It was a cloudy afternoon, the kind where the sky looks gray and grumpy. Recess had just started and the playground was full of kids running around. Jake stood off to the side, like always, holding his old backpack. The straps were frayed and the blue was so faded it almost looked gray. That backpack was his only friend, the one thing he always kept close. Tyler spotted him from across the yard and got that mean glint in his eye. "Watch this," he said to his crew, and they all snickered. Tyler marched over, his sneakers kicking up dirt. Jake didn't move. He just stood there staring at the ground. Tyler didn't say anything at first. He just reached out, quick as a snake, and snatched the backpack right out of Jake's hands. The crowd of kids nearby gasped. Tyler held it up high, waving it like a flag. Then with a big laugh he tossed it, splash, right into a muddy puddle. Brown water splashed up, soaking the bag. "Oops," Tyler said, his voice dripping with fake surprise. His buddies burst out laughing, pointing and howling like it was the best joke ever. The other kids watching went quiet. Throwing someone's stuff in the mud, that was mean even for Tyler. They stared at Jake, waiting for him to cry or run away, but Jake didn't do either. He walked over to the puddle slow and calm, like nothing big had happened. He knelt down in the dirt, his knees sinking a little into the wet ground. He picked up his backpack, the mud dripping off it in thick, gooey clumps. With his sleeve, he wiped off as much as he could, careful and steady. Tyler kept laughing. All look at him, cleaning his baby bag. His crew joined in, giggling and making faces. The crowd stayed silent, watching. Then something amazing happened. Jake stood up. He held his muddy backpack in one hand, and for the first time ever he spoke. His voice was low, so low you had to lean in to hear it. It was calm, like a whisper on the wind. He looked right at Tyler and said, "You shouldn't have done that." The playground froze. Tyler blinked, his laugh stopping dead. His mouth opened, then closed, like he didn't know what to say. His buddies went quiet too, their eyes big and confused. The crowd held their breath, What did Jake mean? Was he mad? Was he warning them? Was he finally going to snap? Nobody knew. Tyler stared at Jake, his face all scrunched up. "What you say?" he barked, stepping closer. But Jake didn't answer. He just stood there, his sharp eyes locked on Tyler, his muddy backpack dripping in his hand. That moment, it was huge. Jake had been quiet for weeks, taking everything Tyler threw at him. And now he'd said something, just a few words, but they hit like a thunderclap. The air felt different, heavier, like something big was about to happen. Tyler looked unsure for the first time. His buddies shuffled their feet, glancing at each other. The crowd whispered, "Did you hear that? What's he gonna do?" What did Jake mean? Was he tired of the bullying? Was he ready to fight back? Or was it something else, something bigger? You've got to keep watching, because this is where it gets good. Jake's secret, the one he'd been hiding all this time, was starting to peek out. Those words, "You shouldn't have done that," they were a clue, a little hint. Tyler didn't know it yet, but he'd just poked a sleeping bear. And that bear, it was waking up. So what do you think? Is Jake about to do something wild? Is he stronger than he looks? Smarter? Tell me your guess. This is getting exciting. It was Friday afternoon at Westfield Middle School, and the playground was buzzing like a beehive. Kids were everywhere, swinging on swings, sliding down slides, and running around shouting. The sun was dipping low, painting the sky with orange and pink. It was the end of the week, and everyone was excited for the weekend. But something big was about to happen, something nobody saw coming. The air felt electric, like a storm was brewing right there on the playground. Tyler Brooks, the big bully of 6th grade, had made up his mind. Today was the day he'd finish off Jake Carter, the quiet new kid. For weeks, Tyler and his crew had teased Jake, tripped him, and tossed his stuff around. They thought he was weak, a pushover. And now, with the playground packed full of kids, Tyler wanted to show everyone who was boss. He strutted over to Jake, his fists clenched, his mean grin stretched wide. His 4 buddies followed close behind, giggling like they couldn't wait to see the fun. Jake stood near the edge of the playground, his old backpack slung over one shoulder. He was quiet, like always, his head down a little. The crowd of kids started to notice. They slowed down, turning to watch. Whispers spread fast. "Tyler's gonna get him," one kid said. "Poor Jake," another muttered. Everyone thought they knew what was coming. Tyler was big and tough. Jake was skinny and silent. It looked like an easy win for the bully. Tyler stopped a few steps from Jake and raised his voice so everyone could hear. "Let's see if you can dodge this," he yelled. Then, quick as a flash, he swung his fist right at Jake's face. It was a hard punch aimed to knock Jake flat. The crowd gasped, big loud gasps, expecting Jake to crumple to the ground like a broken toy. They thought he'd fall, maybe cry, maybe run away. That's what always happened with Tyler's targets. But then whoosh, something crazy happened. Jake moved like lightning, so fast you could barely see it. He ducked under Tyler's punch, his body bending low and smooth. The fist sailed over his head, hitting nothing but air. Before anyone could blink, Jake stepped to the side, light on his feet. Then, in one quick move, he grabbed Tyler's arm, the same arm that threw the punch. With a twist, fast and strong, Jake yanked Tyler's arm behind his back and pushed him down. Thump. Tyler hit the ground, pinned flat on his belly. The playground went dead quiet, not a sound. No laughing, no shouting, no nothing. Every kid froze, eyes wide, mouths open. Tyler squirmed under Jake, his face turning red as a tomato. "Let me go," he shouted, his voice all high and angry. He kicked his legs and wiggled, but he couldn't get up. Jake held him there, steady and strong, like it was no big deal. His face was cool as ice, not even a little sweaty or mad. He looked down at Tyler and said, real calm, "I warned you." Then, just like that, he let go and stepped back. Tyler scrambled up, dirt smeared on his shirt, his hair all messy. He rubbed his arm, glaring at Jake, but he didn't say anything. He couldn't. The other boys, Tyler's crew, stood there staring, their jaws dropped so low they almost hit the ground. The short one with freckles stuttered, "What are you?" His voice shook like he'd seen a ghost. The other kids in the crowd started whispering, leaning closer, trying to figure out what just happened. Who was this new kid? How did he do that? Jake brushed off his hands, wiping the dirt like it was nothing. He stood tall now, not slouched or quiet anymore. All eyes were on him, waiting. He took a deep breath and spoke, his voice clear and steady. "I've been training in martial arts since I was 5, he said. "My dad's a black belt. I just didn't want to fight, but you left me no choice." Boom, there it was, the big secret out in the open. The new kid wasn't weak, he wasn't scared, he was a total powerhouse. The crowd exploded with gasps and chatter. "Martial arts," one kid said. "Since he was 5, another whispered. "His dad's a black belt," a girl squeaked. Tyler's buddies backed up a step, their faces pale. They couldn't believe it. Neither could Tyler. He just stood there, breathing hard, staring at Jake like he'd never seen him before. Let's rewind a second. All this time, weeks and weeks, Tyler thought Jake was an easy target. He saw the skinny arms, the old backpack, the quiet way Jake moved, and he figured Jake was nothing. His crew thought so too. They'd laughed and teased and pushed, sure that Jake would break. But they were so wrong. Jake wasn't weak at all. He'd been training, learning kicks and flips and blocks since he was little. His dad, a black belt, taught him everything. Jake could fight, really fight, but he didn't want to. He'd stayed quiet, hoping the bullying would stop. Until now. The playground was alive again, buzzing with excited voices. Kids pointed at Jake, some smiling, some shocked. "Did you see that?" a boy yelled. "He took Tyler down," a girl cheered. Tyler's big punch had missed and Jake had turned it around in seconds. It was fast, smooth, and perfect, like something from a movie. The crowd couldn't stop talking about it. Jake wasn't just the new kid anymore. He was something else, something amazing. Tyler rubbed his arm again, his face all twisted up. He didn't know what to do. For the first time, he looked small, not big and tough like usual. His buddies didn't laugh or cheer him on. They just stood there, quiet and confused. Jake's words echoed in the air. "I warned you." And he hadn't he, that day with the muddy backpack, when he'd said, "You shouldn't have done that." Tyler didn't listen then. He didn't think Jake could do anything. But now he knew. How's that for a twist? The quiet kid, the one everyone picked on, turned out to be a secret fighter. All those weeks of watching and waiting, Jake had been ready. He didn't want to hurt anyone, he'd said it himself. But Tyler kept pushing and pushing and pushing until Jake had to show what he could do. And when he did, wow, it was like a firework going off, bright, loud, and impossible to miss. The playground was still buzzing after Jake pinned Tyler to the ground, but now everything was different. Tyler Brooks, the big bully who thought he ruled the school, scrambled to his feet. His face was red like a ripe apple and his shirt was covered in dirt. He looked around, breathing hard, his eyes wide with shock. He was humiliated, totally embarrassed in front of everyone. The crowd of kids, who used to cheer him on and laugh at his mean tricks, didn't cheer anymore. Instead, they whispered about Jake. "Did you see that? one kid said, his voice all excited. "He's so cool." Another shouted, pointing at Jake. The air was full of chatter, and none of it was about Tyler being tough. Tyler brushed the dirt off his pants, but he couldn't brush off what just happened. His buddies, the four boys who always followed him, stood off to the side, quiet for once. They didn't laugh or clap or call him the boss. They just stared at the ground, kicking little rocks with their sneakers. The playground fight was over and Tyler had lost, big time. Jake, the skinny new kid, had turned everything upside down with one fast move, and that was just the start. By Monday morning, the whole school knew what went down. Word spread like wildfire, kids talking in the halls, whispering at lunch, even telling their parents at home. Jake flipped Tyler, one kid said in the cafeteria. "He's a martial arts guy," another added, waving his fork around. Teachers heard about it too. They didn't see the fight, but enough kids told the story that it reached the grown-ups. And when teachers hear about a fight, they don't just sit there, they do something. The principal, Mrs. Harper, called Tyler into her office first. She was a tall lady with glasses and a stern face, the kind of person you don't mess with. Tyler slouched in, his head down, knowing he was in trouble. Mrs. Harper had heard how Tyler started it, how he swung his fist at Jake, how he'd been picking on him for weeks. She didn't like bullies, not one bit. "Tyler Brooks," she said, her voice firm, "you're suspended. 3 days. No playground, no school. Now go home and think about what you did." Tyler didn't argue. He just nodded, grabbed his backpack, and shuffled out. Suspended, that meant he couldn't come back until Thursday. For a kid like Tyler, who loved being the big shot, that hurt more than falling in the dirt. Then it was Jake's turn. Mrs. Harper called him in next. Jake walked into her office, his old backpack over his shoulder, looking calm like always. He didn't know what to expect. Would he get in trouble too? Fighting wasn't allowed even if you didn't start it. But Mrs. Harper didn't yell, she didn't frown. She sat behind her big desk, looked at Jake over her glasses, and said, "I heard what happened. Tyler tried to hit you and you stopped him. You defended yourself well." She paused, then added, "Just don't make it a habit, okay? We don't want fights here." Jake nodded, a small smile creeping onto his face. "Yes, ma'am," he said quietly. Then he left her office, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. When Jake stepped back into the halls, everything had flipped. Totally flipped. The other kids didn't see him as the weak new kid anymore. Nope, they saw him as something else, something awesome. By lunchtime, a bunch of them crowded around his table. "Hey Jake, that was amazing," a boy with curly hair said. "Can you teach me how to do that twisty thing?" a girl with braids asked, her eyes big and shiny. "Yeah, show us some moves," another kid chimed in. Jake blinked, surprised. He wasn't used to this, kids liking him, wanting to talk to him, but he nodded and said, "Maybe sometime." They cheered, clapping him on the back like he was their new best friend. The playground that afternoon. It was a whole new world. Tyler wasn't there, he was home, grounded by his suspension. His buddies didn't mess with Jake either. They stayed far away, tossing a ball between themselves and keeping their heads down. The other kids, though, they didn't tease Jake or trip him or call him names. Not anymore. Some waved at him, some smiled. A few even asked him to play kickball with them. Jake wasn't just the new kid now. He was the toughest, bravest guy around. Everyone could see it. And Tyler, oh, Tyler was a different story. When he came back to school on Thursday, he wasn't the same loud, strutty bully. He slunk around quietly, his shoulders hunched, his eyes on the floor. He didn't talk big or push anyone. He didn't even look at Jake. He knew he'd picked the wrong fight, and it showed. The kids who used to follow him didn't follow so close anymore. They'd seen him lose, seen him fall, and they weren't so sure he was the boss now. Tyler's reign as king of the playground was over, all because he'd messed with Jake. Justice was served, plain and simple. Tyler had been mean for weeks, tripping, teasing, throwing Jake's stuff in the mud. He thought he could get away with it forever, but Jake showed him he couldn't. That Friday fight wasn't just a win for Jake, it was a lesson for Tyler, a big one. Bullies don't always stay on top. Sometimes the quiet kid, the one they pick on, turns out to be stronger than anyone expects. And when that happens, things change. The school felt different after that. Lighter, nicer. Kids talked about Jake like he was a hero. He's not scared of anything, one said. He's super strong, another added. Even the teachers nodded when they passed him in the hall like they were proud. Jake didn't brag though. He didn't walk around acting tough. He stayed quiet like before, but now it was a different kind of quiet. A strong kind, a kind that said, I don't need to prove anything, everyone already knows. Tyler learned the hard way. He'd pushed and pushed, thinking Jake would break, but Jake didn't break. He fought back just once, and that was enough. The playground wasn't his to rule anymore. It belonged to everyone now, and Jake had made that happen. He didn't want to fight again. He'd told Mrs. Harper that, but he didn't have to. One move, one twist, one big reveal, and the bullying stopped. That's what justice looks like when the mean kid gets what's coming and the good kid comes out on top. So there it was. By Monday, everything had flipped, and it stayed that way. Jake was safe, respected, even liked. Tyler was quiet, humbled out of chances. The crowd that used to cheer for the bully now cheered for the new kid. And the best part, Jake didn't need to say much. He'd let his actions talk, and they said everything. How's that for a happy ending? Stick around, the story not over yet. Okay, let's wrap this up with something big to think about. What's the main lesson from Jake's story? Here it is: don't judge someone just by how they look or act. You can't tell everything about a person from the outside. Jake was skinny and quiet. He didn't talk much or act tough. Everyone, Tyler, his buddies, even the other kids, thought he was weak. They thought he was an easy target because he didn't shout or fight back right away. But guess what? They were so wrong. The quiet ones, the ones you don't expect, they might be hiding something amazing inside. Jake had a secret. He was strong, really strong, because he'd trained in martial arts since he was little. But he didn't need to brag about it. He didn't walk around telling everyone, "Hey, I'm awesome." Nope. He stayed calm and let his actions do the talking. When Tyler pushed him too far, Jake showed what he could do just once, and that was enough. He flipped Tyler to the ground and surprised everybody. That's the cool thing about Jake. He didn't have to yell or show off. He proved himself when it mattered most. And those bullies, oh man, they learned a hard lesson. Tyler and his crew thought picking on Jake would be fun. They thought they'd win like always, but they picked the wrong kid and it flipped their whole world upside down. Tyler went from being the big, tough guy to someone quiet and embarrassed. His friends didn't follow him like before. The playground wasn't his anymore, all because they didn't see who Jake really was. That's what happens when you judge too fast. You might miss the truth, and it can come back to surprise you. So what about you? Could you stay calm like Jake? Could you wait and watch even if someone was mean to you? Or would you fight back sooner? It's a big question. Jake stayed cool for weeks, even when Tyler tripped him and threw his stuff in the mud. He didn't snap until he had to. That takes guts, real guts. Maybe you're like that too, or maybe you'd stand up faster. Either way, Jake's story shows us something. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, waiting for the right moment. What do you think? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to hear. Did you like how Jake handled it? Could you do the same? And if you loved this story, give it a thumbs up so I know. Tell your friends about it too, share it with them. Jake's big twist was awesome, right? A quiet kid turning into a hero. That's the kind of story worth talking about. Thanks for sticking with me all the way to the end. See you in the next one. Bye for now.